The year was 2341, and humanity had finally touched the stars. For decades, humans had spread across their solar system. They built cities on Mars. They mined asteroids for precious metals. They sent probes to distant worlds and dreamed of meeting other intelligent life. When they finally developed faster-than-light travel, those dreams became reality. Ambassador Jisoo was chosen to lead humanity's first diplomatic mission to the Galactic Council. She was a calm woman, with kind eyes and a gentle voice. She believed that all intelligent beings could find common ground. She believed in peace. The Galactic Council was ancient. 9 powerful species had ruled the known galaxy for over 1,000,000 years. They controlled trade routes, settled disputes, and maintained order among thousands of worlds. When humanity requested an audience, the council agreed to listen. Jisoo stood before the 9 representatives in a chamber larger than any building on Earth. Strange creatures surrounded her. Some had scales. Some had tentacles. Some looked like nothing she could have imagined. But she smiled and spoke clearly. "We come in peace," she said. "We wish only to learn, to trade, and to grow alongside you. Earth offers friendship to all who would accept it." The council members listened. They asked questions about human history, human technology, and human nature. Jisoo answered everything honestly. She showed them art and music. She explained human values of family, love, and hope. She believed she was building bridges. She did not know that she was signing humanity's death warrant. After the human delegation left, Grand Chancellor Morath of the Vectari species called a secret meeting. The Vectari were tall, gray-skinned beings with 4 arms and calculating minds. Morath had ruled the council for 3 centuries, and he had never seen anything like humans. "They are dangerous," Morath declared. "More dangerous than any species we have ever encountered." The other representatives murmured in confusion. The humans seemed weak. Their ships were slow. Their weapons were primitive. "What threat could they possibly pose?" Morath explained. "I have studied their history. They went from riding animals to splitting atoms in less than 200 years. They went from first flight to walking on their moon in 60 years. Their technology advances faster than anything in our records. If we do nothing, they will surpass us all within 5 centuries." The chamber fell silent. "They breed quickly," Morath continued. "They adapt to any environment. They never stop pushing forward. Today, they are children. Tomorrow, they will be giants. We must act now, while we still can." Commander Gorn of the Military Council stood. "What do you propose?" Morath's 4 hands clasped together. "Complete elimination. Destroy their homeworld. Hunt down their colonies. Leave no survivors." Some representatives protested. This was genocide. This was wrong. But Morath reminded them of the Council's first duty: to protect the existing order. Humanity threatened that order simply by existing. The vote was held in secret. 8 species voted yes. 1 abstained. Earth was marked for death. 3 weeks later, Ambassador Jisoo was preparing her next presentation when the sky turned dark. She looked up and saw thousands of ships blocking out the sun. Her communicator filled with screaming voices. Emergency alerts flooded every channel. "This is Grand Chancellor Morath of the Galactic Council," a cold voice announced across all frequencies. "Humanity has been judged. A threat to galactic stability. The sentence is immediate termination. May your souls find peace in the void." Then the bombardment began. Plasma fire rained from the sky like burning rain. Cities vanished in seconds. Oceans boiled. Mountains crumbled. 9 billion people screamed, prayed, and died. Jisoo watched the flames consume everything she loved. Her last thought was of her daughter, who lived on the other side of the planet. She never knew if her daughter felt any pain. In 6 hours, Earth was nothing but molten rock and ash. But deep in the outer solar system, far beyond Neptune, 12 massive ships waited in silence. The Exodus fleet was humanity's secret. For years, scientists had warned that first contact might go wrong. They had prepared for the worst. 300,000 people. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, families had been selected to preserve humanity's future. Captain Minho commanded the lead ship. He was a serious man who rarely smiled, but he loved his crew like family. When the distress calls from Earth reached him, he felt his heart shatter into pieces. "Father," his daughter Yuri said, tugging at his sleeve. She was only 7 years old, with big, curious eyes. "Why is Earth so bright? Is there a celebration?" Minho could not answer. He could not tell her that the brightness was fire. He could not explain that everyone they knew was dying. He simply held her close and tried not to cry. "Set course for deep space," he commanded his crew. "Maximum speed. We run until they cannot find us. Foreman, set course. Foreman, foreman." An officer hesitated. "Sir, should we not try to fight? To rescue survivors?" Minho shook his head slowly. "There is no one left to rescue. And if we fight, we die too. Our only duty now is survival. We must preserve what remains of humanity." The Exodus fleet engaged their engines and vanished into the darkness between galaxies. They left no trace. They sent no signals. They simply disappeared into the void. Back on the council station, Grand Chancellor Morath received confirmation that Earth was destroyed. He smiled for the first time in decades. "The human problem is solved," he announced. "Let this be recorded in history. A dangerous species was eliminated before it could threaten galactic peace. We have done our duty." The council celebrated. They awarded medals and honors to the commanders who had carried out the attack. They erased all records of human culture, human art, and human achievement. They wanted the galaxy to forget that humans had ever existed. But in the cold darkness of space, 12 ships carried 300,000 souls who would never forget. Among them was little Yuri, who did not yet understand why her father cried every night. Among them were scientists who swore to make humanity stronger. Among them were soldiers who promised revenge. Captain Minho gathered his people and made them swear an oath. "We will survive," he said. "We will grow stronger. And one day, no matter how long it takes, we will return. The council believes they have destroyed us. They are wrong. They have only made us patient. And patience is the deadliest weapon of all." The Exodus fleet sailed into the endless dark. The galaxy forgot about humanity. That was their first mistake. The years passed slowly, in the void between galaxies. The Exodus fleet drifted through emptiness so complete that no light reached them from any star. The survivors called it the Long Dark. It was a place where hope went to die. Captain Minho aged quickly in those first decades. The weight of leadership crushed him. Every death on the fleet felt like a personal failure. Every child born felt like both a miracle and a burden. Resources were limited. Ships broke down. People grew sick, grew sad, and sometimes gave up entirely. But Minho never stopped pushing forward. He reminded his people why they had to survive. "We carry the memory of 9 billion souls," he would say. "If we die here, they die forever. Their stories, their dreams, their love, all of it vanishes. We cannot let that happen." Minho died at the age of 93, still standing on the bridge of his ship. His daughter Yuri, now a grown woman with children of her own, took command of the fleet. She had her father's serious eyes and her mother's gentle heart. She had also inherited something else: an absolute hatred for the Galactic Council. Under Yuri's leadership, the fleet found something incredible. A rogue planet, drifting alone through the void, heated only by its molten core. It had no sun. It had no moon. but it had warmth beneath its frozen surface, and that was enough. Yuri named the planet Hanul, an old Korean word meaning sky. It was a painful name, a reminder of what they had lost. But it was also a promise. One day, they would see a real sky again. The survivors built their new civilization underground. They carved vast caverns into the rock and heated them with geothermal energy. They grew food in hydroponic farms. They recycled every drop of water, every breath of air. Life was hard, but life continued. Generations passed. The original survivors grew old and died. Their children grew old and died, but the stories survived. Every family kept records of who they had lost on Earth. Every child learned the names of the dead. The hatred never faded. It only grew stronger with each passing century. A brilliant scientist named Unji changed everything. She was born 300 years after the genocide, but she felt the pain of Earth as if she had witnessed it herself. She dedicated her life to making humanity stronger. Unji discovered how to modify human genetics. She extended the human lifespan to 500 years. She made humans stronger, faster, and smarter. She improved their immune systems and their healing abilities. The humans of Hanul were no longer the same species that had fled Earth. They were something new, something better. At the same time, an engineer named Tae-woo was solving a different problem. During the Long Dark, the fleet had captured several damaged council ships. Tae-woo spent his entire life studying them. He understood their technology better than the species who had built it, and then he improved it. Tae-woo's engines were faster. His shields were stronger. His sensors could detect ships at distances the council thought impossible. Each generation built upon the last. A weapons master named Kyung created the most terrifying invention of all. She called them rift cannons. They did not fire energy or missiles. They tore holes in reality itself. Anything caught in a rift simply ceased to exist. There was no defense against such weapons. There was no survival. By the year 6300, the civilization on Hanul had transformed completely. Their cities stretched for hundreds of kilometers beneath the surface. Their population had grown to 50 million. Their technology surpassed anything in the known galaxy. And their hatred had crystallized into something cold, patient, and absolute. Supreme Admiral Seo-jun was the leader of this new humanity. He was tall and calm, with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. His great-grandmother had been Yuri. His family had commanded the fleet for generations. The duty of vengeance now rested on his shoulders. Seo-jun stood before the military council in a chamber carved from black stone. Behind him, holographic displays showed the Vengeance Armada. 800 warships of terrifying design. Each ship was faster, stronger, and deadlier than anything the council possessed. 4,000 years ago, Seo-jun said, his voice echoing through the chamber, they murdered our world. They believed they had erased us from existence. They celebrated our death. They forgot our names. He paused, letting the weight of history fill the silence. We never forgot. We never forgave. We spent 4,000 years preparing for this moment. Our ancestors built this civilization with their bare hands. They suffered so that we could stand here today. They died so that we could live. And they made us promise, every single one of us, that we would return. The officers in the chamber stood taller. Many had tears in their eyes. The Galactic Council thinks they rule the galaxy, Seo-jun continued. They think they are safe. They have grown comfortable. They have forgotten what fear feels like. We are going to remind them. IT. He turned to face the holographic map of the galaxy. Earth's location was marked with a red dot. A wound that had never healed. We will not become what they are. We will not murder billions of innocents, but we will have justice. The leaders who ordered our destruction will face judgment. The species who voted for our death will answer for their crimes. and the galaxy will learn that humanity is not so easy to kill. Elder Hajun, nearly 500 years old, rose slowly from his seat. He had been born on the original Exodus fleet. He was the last living person who had known Captain Minho personally. "I have waited my entire life for this day," Hajun said, his ancient voice cracking with emotion. "My grandmother watched Earth burn. She held me as a baby and whispered the names of everyone she lost. I promised her that I would live to see justice. I am old now. I am tired. But I will not die before I see the council answer for what they did." Seo Jun placed his hand on the old man's shoulder. "You will see it, Elder. I promise you." The order was given. The Vengeance Armada powered up their engines. 800 ships, carrying millions of soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment, prepared to leave the only home they had ever known. Humanity was going back to the stars, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. The first warning came on a quiet morning on the Vectari homeworld. Every screen on the planet flickered at the same moment. Every radio signal was interrupted. Every communication device spoke with a single voice. "Children of Earth, remember. The dead, do not forget." Then silence returned, as if nothing had happened. Counselor Dreth stood in his office, staring at his communicator with wide eyes. He was a high-ranking member of the Vectari government, and he had never seen anything like this. And then with Tain, our other 9, someone had hacked into every system on the planet simultaneously. That should have been impossible. He immediately contacted the military. What was that? Who sent that message? The military commanders had no answers. They traced the signal to 1,000 different sources. They found nothing. It was as if a ghost had spoken to an entire world. Dreth told himself it was a prank. Some criminal organization trying to cause panic. But deep in his gut, he felt something cold. Something like fear. Over the following weeks, strange things began to happen across Council space. Border stations went silent. Scout ships disappeared without sending distress calls. An entire mining colony on the outer rim was found completely empty. The buildings still stood. The machines still worked. But every person was simply gone. The only thing left behind was a message carved into the metal floor of the colony's central plaza. 9 billion. We counted every one. Panic began to spread. Grand Chancellor Morath, still alive after 4,000 years thanks to advanced medical technology, called an emergency meeting of the council. He was ancient now. His gray skin wrinkled and spotted with age, but his mind remained sharp, and his fear was growing. "This is impossible," he insisted. "We destroyed the humans completely. I watched their planet burn. There were no survivors." The other council members were not so certain. Reports kept coming in. A Crothian battleship was found drifting dead in space, its entire crew missing. A Veth communication hub was sabotaged, cutting off an entire sector for days, and always, the same messages appeared. "We remember. We are coming. 4,000 years. We have not forgotten." Captain Aaron commanded the human stealth cruiser Ghost of Soul. It was one of 12 ships assigned to the psychological warfare campaign. Their mission was simple: make the council afraid. Aaron was young for a captain, only 80 years old. She had sharp features and a sharper mind. She had studied council culture for decades. She knew exactly how to hurt them. "The Vectari value order above all else," she explained to her crew. "They cannot handle uncertainty. The more chaos we create, the more they will panic. The Crothians respect only strength. We must show them that they are weak. Each species has different fears. We will exploit them all." Her infiltration teams moved like shadows. They slipped onto space stations and planted listening devices. They sabotaged weapon systems and left them just broken enough to fail at critical moments. They kidnapped military officers, interrogated them for information, and released them unharmed but terrified. The released prisoners all told the same story. Humans had captured them. Real humans. Not ghosts. Not legends. Actual living humans. Who spoke of Earth and promised vengeance. Still, many council leaders refused to believe. It must be another species pretending to be human, one admiral argued. Perhaps they found old human records and are using them to frighten us. The humans are extinct. We made certain of that. And one. But deep down, doubt was growing. Back on Hanul, Supreme Admiral Seojun monitored the reports with satisfaction. The psychological campaign was working better than expected. Council military forces were spreading thin, chasing shadows across 1,000 systems. Their leadership was arguing among themselves. Their populations were starting to question whether the government could protect them. How much longer do we continue this phase? Asked Strategic Commander Suho, a woman known for her brilliant tactical mind. 3 more years, Sojun replied. Let their fear ripen. Let their alliances weaken. When we finally reveal ourselves, they must already be half defeated. Elder Hajun watched the intelligence briefings from his quarters. At nearly 500 years old, he could no longer stand for long periods, but his mind remained clear, and his hatred remained hot. I wish I could see their faces, he said to his great-granddaughter, a young officer named Yuna. I wish I could watch them tremble the way our ancestors trembled when the sky burned. I'm Pendig by him. I'm Pendig Splant. Yuna knelt beside his chair. You will see justice, great-grandfather. I promise you. Hajun smiled weakly. Your grandmother was born on the Exodus fleet. Her mother, my grandmother, watched Earth die. She used to tell me stories about the blue sky and the green trees. She would cry every time. I never saw a sky or a tree until we built them underground. False copies of what we lost. He reached out and took Yuna's hand. When this is over, I want you to walk on Earth. Real Earth. I want you to feel the real sun on your face. Promise me. I promise, Yuna whispered. The psychological warfare continued. More stations went dark. More ships disappeared. More messages appeared, carved into metal and stone across council space. Finally, Grand Chancellor Morath could deny the truth no longer. Intelligence had captured undeniable proof. Genetic samples from human infiltrators matching the records of the species they had destroyed 4,000 years ago. Morath stood before the council, his 4 hands trembling. They survived, he said, his voice barely a whisper. Somehow, impossibly, they survived. And they have been watching us, learning from us, preparing. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted accusations at each other. Some demanded immediate military action. Others wanted to sue for peace. Fear had shattered their unity. Morath raised his hands for silence. We have only one option. We must gather every ship, every soldier, every weapon we possess. We must find these humans and destroy them again, this time completely. We cannot allow them to threaten everything we have built. The council voted unanimously for war. They had no idea that war was exactly what humanity wanted. In the darkness of space, the Vengeance Armada began its final approach. The time for shadows was ending. The time for fire was about to begin. The Galactic Council assembled the largest military force in recorded history. 25,000 warships gathered near the Ashfall Nebula, a region of space not far from where Earth had once orbited its sun. The combined fleets of all 9 council species filled the darkness with metal and fire. It was a display of power meant to terrify any enemy. Supreme Commander Veth of the Crothians led the armada. He was a massive creature covered in thick scales, with 6 eyes that missed nothing. He had never lost a battle in 300 years of service. He did not intend to start now. These humans are nothing but ghosts and terrorists, Veth announced to his commanders. They have spent years hiding in shadows, playing tricks, trying to frighten us. Now they will face real warriors. We will crush them as easily as our ancestors crushed their pathetic world. His officers cheered. They believed their numbers made them invincible. On the other side of the nebula, the Vengeance Armada emerged from faster-than-light travel. 800 human ships arranged themselves in perfect formation. Compared to the Council fleet, they looked like a handful of stones facing a mountain. Supreme Admiral Seojun stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Wrath of Hanul. He was calm. He had prepared for this moment his entire life. Every human in the fleet had prepared for this moment their entire lives. "Open a channel to the enemy fleet," Seojun ordered. His communications officer hesitated. "Sir, are you sure? They outnumber us 30-1. "I am sure. Open the channel." The channel opened, and Seojun's face appeared on every screen in the Council Armada. He spoke slowly and clearly. "This is Supreme Admiral Seojun of the Human Vengeance Fleet. 4,000 years ago, you murdered our world without warning, without mercy, without justice. You killed 9 billion innocent people. You thought you had erased us from existence." He paused, letting his words sink in. "You were wrong. We survived. We grew stronger. And now we have returned. Today, you will answer for your crimes. Today, the children of Earth have come for justice." Supreme Commander Veth laughed when the transmission ended. "Justice? With 800 ships? They are insane. All units, attack. Destroy them all." The Council Armada surged forward, thousands of ships firing weapons as they charged. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between the fleets. It should have been a slaughter. It was not the slaughter anyone expected. The human ships moved with impossible speed. They dodged through the enemy fire like dancers, their engines performing maneuvers that should have been physically impossible. The Council gunners could not hit them. Their targeting systems could not track them. Then the humans fired back. The rift cannons activated. Beams of pure darkness shot from human vessels. And wherever those beams touched, reality simply broke. Council ships did not explode. They did not burn. They simply ceased to exist, torn apart at the atomic level and scattered into nothing. In the first 60 seconds, over 3,000 Council ships vanished. Veth watched in horror as a quarter of his fleet disappeared. What is happening? What weapons are those? No one had answers. The Council had never seen technology like this. They had never imagined technology like this. Humans were supposed to be primitive. Humans were supposed to be extinct. Tactical Officer Sujin stood beside Admiral Sojun, calling out targets with cold precision. She felt no joy in the destruction. She felt only duty. Every Council ship destroyed was justice for the 9 billion dead. Every enemy life taken was payment for a debt 4,000 years old. "Focus fire on their command ships," Seojun ordered. "I want their admirals to watch their fleets die before they die themselves." The human ships coordinated perfectly. They had trained together for generations. They knew each other's movements without speaking. They fought as one single organism. And that organism was designed for exactly this moment. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Council Armada was broken beyond recognition. Over 20,000 ships had been destroyed or disabled. The survivors were fleeing in every direction, abandoning their formation, abandoning their allies, abandoning hope. Supreme Commander Veth's flagship was captured intact. Human soldiers boarded the vessel and dragged Veth to the bridge of the Wrath of Hanul in chains. He was thrown to the floor before Admiral Seojun. Veth looked up at the human with 6 terrified eyes. How? How is this possible? You were primitives. You were nothing." Seojun knelt down to meet Veth's gaze. His voice was quiet but filled with cold fury. "You gave us 4,000 years. 4,000 years to hate you. 4,000 years to prepare. You destroyed our world and then forgot about us. You celebrated our death and moved on with your lives. But we never moved on. Every single day for 4,000 years, we thought about nothing except this moment. He stood and looked down at the defeated commander. You created us. Your genocide forged us into what we are. Every child born on Hanul was raised with one purpose: to return and make you pay. You wanted to destroy humanity? You only made us stronger. Over the following months, human forces swept through Council space. One by one, the homeworlds of the 9 species surrendered. Their militaries were dismantled. Their leaders were arrested. Their populations watched in shock as the species they had tried to exterminate conquered everything they had built. But humanity did not commit genocide in return. Admiral Seo Jun made this clear in every system they entered. We are not here to murder innocents. We are not what you made us suffer. The common people of your worlds are not guilty. Only your leaders will face judgment. Only those who voted for our destruction will answer for their crimes. Many humans disagreed with this mercy. They wanted blood. They wanted revenge equal to what they had suffered. But Seo Jun held firm. If we become monsters, they win. If we kill billions of innocents, we prove that they were right to fear us. We must be better than they were. We must prove that humanity deserved to survive. Grand Chancellor Morath was captured on the Vectari homeworld. He was ancient and frail, barely able to stand. When human soldiers entered his chambers, he did not try to run. He simply sat in his chair and waited. So it ends, Morath whispered. Everything I built, everything I protected, destroyed by the species I tried to destroy. The soldiers said nothing. They simply placed him in restraints and led him away. The war was over. Now came the harder part: justice. The trial was held on Earth. For 3 years, human engineers had worked to restore a small piece of the planet. Atmospheric processors cleaned the air. Soil restoration machines prepared the ground. Rain fell on Earth for the first time in 4,000 years. It was not much, just a few hundred square kilometers in what had once been called Korea, but it was enough. The tribunal chamber was built on a hill overlooking the sea. It was simple, made of stone and glass, designed to let sunlight pour through. Around it, the first trees planted on Earth since the genocide were beginning to grow. Small and fragile, but alive. Survivors from Hanul traveled across the galaxy to witness the trial. They were seeing their ancestral home for the first time, not in recordings or stories, but with their own eyes. Even though the planet was still mostly dead, even though scars from the bombardment still covered most of its surface, it was still Earth. It was still home. Elder Hajun was carried to the tribunal in a special chair. At 503 years old, he was the oldest human alive. His body was failing, but he had refused to die before this moment. His great-granddaughter Yuna walked beside him, holding his thin hand. I can feel the sun, Hajun whispered. Real sunlight. Not the artificial lights of Hanul. Real warmth. From a real star. Tears rolled down his wrinkled cheeks. My grandmother told me about this feeling. She said nothing in the universe compared to sunshine on your skin. I never believed I would experience it myself. No. Yuna squeezed his hand. You kept your promise, great-grandfather. You lived to see justice. The accused were brought before the tribunal one by one. Representatives from all 9 council species who had voted for humanity's destruction. Military commanders who had carried out the attack. Politicians who had celebrated the genocide and erased all records of human existence. Grand Chancellor Morath was the last to stand before the judges. He was so old that he could barely stand. His gray skin hung loose on his bones. His 4 arms trembled constantly. 4,000 years of life, and it had all led to this moment, standing in chains before the species he had tried to erase. Chief Justice Yuna presided over the tribunal. She was Hajun's great-granddaughter, chosen specifically for this role. Her family had kept meticulous records of everyone they lost in the genocide. She carried those names in her heart. Grand Chancellor Morath, Yuna said, her voice steady and clear. You are charged with ordering the murder of 9 billion sentient beings. You authorized the complete destruction of Earth without warning, without trial, without any attempt at peaceful resolution. You celebrated this genocide and spent 4,000 years believing you had succeeded. How do you answer these charges? Morath's voice was barely a whisper. We were protecting the galaxy. Your species was dangerous. You would have dominated us all. Enslaved us. We had no choice. Yuna shook her head slowly. You had every choice. Ambassador Jisoo came to you with open hands. She offered friendship and cooperation. She asked only for a chance to prove humanity's good intentions. Instead of giving us that chance, you murdered everyone she loved. You burned hospitals full of sick people. You destroyed schools full of children. You erased poets and artists and scientists who had never harmed anyone and never would have harmed anyone. She paused, letting the weight of her words fill the chamber. You did not know what humanity would become. You were simply afraid of what we might become. And because of that fear, you committed the greatest crime in galactic history. Morath lowered his head. What is my sentence? Death? No, Yuna replied. We will not become what you are. The sentence is life imprisonment. You will spend your remaining years confined on this world, surrounded by what you destroyed. You will see Earth healing. You will see humanity thriving. And you will know that everything you tried to prevent has come to pass anyway. Morath was led away. He did not resist. He had nothing left to fight for. The other guilty parties received similar sentences. No executions. No genocide. In return, humanity had chosen a different path. In the months following the trials, a new galactic assembly was formed. Humanity took a leading role, but they did not seek to dominate. They established laws protecting all species from the kind of destruction Earth had suffered. They created systems for peaceful resolution of conflicts. They built something better than the Council had ever been. Admiral Seo-jun, now retired from military service, addressed the galaxy one final time. We did not survive 4,000 years of darkness to become tyrants. We survived to ensure that no species ever suffers what we suffered. From this day forward, the strong will protect the weak. Justice will replace fear. And the memory of Earth will remind everyone of what happens when civilizations choose cruelty over compassion. Elder Hajin died 3 months after the trials ended. He passed peacefully, sitting in a garden on Earth, feeling real sunlight on his face for the last time. His final words were, "Tell my grandmother I kept my promise." Yuna was with him when he died. She held his hand as he slipped away, and she whispered the names of their ancestors who had watched Earth burn. The chain was finally complete. The promise had been kept. 2 years later, a young couple named Jeon and Woo-sung built a small house on the Korean peninsula. They had met on Hanul and fallen in love during the war. Now they wanted to start their family on Earth, in the land of their ancestors. Their daughter was born on a spring morning, just as the sun rose over the eastern sea. She was healthy and strong, with curious eyes that seemed to absorb everything around her. They named her Hanul, the same name as the planet that had sheltered humanity for 4,000 years. It meant heaven in the old language, but now it meant something more. It meant survival. It meant hope. It meant that humanity had come home at last. Jeon held her daughter close and looked out the window at the morning sky. "Look, little one," she whispered. "That is Earth's sun. Your great-great-great-grandparents saw this same light 4,000 years ago. Now you see it too. We lost everything, but we found our way back. And you get to grow up in a world where the sky is blue and the grass is green, and nobody will ever try to erase us again." Hanul reached up toward the light and laughed. Humanity had returned from the edge of extinction. They had claimed their vengeance without becoming monsters. They had proven that their survival was not a threat, but a gift. The galaxy would never forget the price of genocide. and Earth's children had finally come home.